Julio Cruz and Gaylord Perry, to Alvin Davis and Harold Reynolds, to father and son back to back bombs, from Junior J, Joey, and Edgar, with Randy, A-Rod, Dan, and the Sheriff, to Ichiro Moyer and Mikey C, to King Felix, Kyle Cruz, and Cano, to the present with Julio, Gilbert, Kirby, and Cal. I don't believe it. It just continues. My, oh my, it's another sports podcast. My, oh my, brackets are busting. Bets are being placed. Major League Baseball is just a stone's throw away, baby. We got to give a huge my oh my, it's another sports podcast shout out to super producer Indy out there in Nashville, Tennessee, rocking the ones and twos. That's Vaden Podcast Services. Vaden Podcast Services, bringing the show to life. Going a little bit earlier today, but we still got to give a huge shout out to all the homies in the live chat, dropping knowledge, telling jokes. Y'all are a critical part of this show. But of course, y'all know what time it is. He's back this week. My man will mess around and get a triple double. Albuquerque's finest. RG, what's going on, bro?
Take me out to the ball game. Take me out with the crowd. Buy me some peanuts and cracker jacks. I don't care
I
if
don't
I
care if
ever
I
get
ever
back.
get back.
'Cause it's root for the Mariners.
Mariners.
If they don't win, it's a shame. For it's one,
One,
two,
two,
three
three.
strikes, you're out at the old ball game. Someone's
Let's do
excited
it.
for Thursday. Someone's excited for opening day. Someone's excited to bet some no-run first innings and for the Mariners to have double-digit strikeouts. It's time to go to work.
Let's go, baby. Let's go. Well, let's get into baseball in a minute right now because even if you're not a college basketball fan, almost everybody gets into March Madness. You have your wives and your girlfriends and your ladies out there bringing home their brackets, asking who they should pick, or maybe in my case, don't tell me who because you always do shitty on it. But RG, there's all sorts of great games, but let's jump right into your hometown, New Mexico Lobos surviving and advancing. Another huge game tonight. Do they have a chance to make it to the Sweet 16?
Well, that's the reason for tonight's early broadcast. This is the biggest game in program history. We have never made it to the Sweet 16 since the tournament expanded to 64 teams. I believe this is only the fifth shot that we have had, either the fifth or sixth shot that we really have had to be able to get it. Of course, it's not going to be easy because we are playing the Michigan State Spartans. Tom Izzo is a legendary coach. Michigan State has a very athletic and really good team. But this is the beauty of March, man. We've already had 110, beat a 2 yesterday with Arkansas beating St. John's. And if it's up to anybody else, man, why not us? So go Lobos.
No doubt, no doubt. I gotta ask you then. I'm just looking at this right here, and great guard play goes a long way in the NCAA tournament. We all know that. Talk to me about this Dent, though. Looking like 20 and a half points, 6.5 dimes per game. They'll need every bit of his production and leadership. Because you're right, man. I would never count out a Tom Izzo's team. Michigan State always brings ferocious defense, but this is March Madness and it's anybody's time to win. Talk to me about this team.
Well, you're going to talk about Donovan Dent's stats. Don't forget to put some respect on his name being the only player in the country to average those stats this year.
Mm.
Yeah, man. Kid is real good out of Centennial High School, out of Compton, California. It's been a big year for Centennial High School, Compton, California kids. If you know they not like us. Um, the thing about Den is he's probably is like any other player in the country. The Lobos recruited him after his freshman year of high school, and his sophomore and junior year were not his best years. So a lot of high profile teams who would have looked at him backed off. What And then his senior year, he gets back to that dominant level. He becomes Mr. Basketball in the state of California. All the bid schools are back on him, and he honored his commitment to the New Mexico Lobos. So I got the utmost respect for Donovan Dent. He is a little undersized, but the kid is fearless, almost like watching Iverson back in the day. Just of course, not the talent that Iverson has, but he knows that his bread and butter is attacking the rim. And
Mm.
like Kyrie, he can finish with both hands. Has unbelievable control of the ball while making these drives. Now, Friday he did have some turnovers. He did have some. He wasn't taking perfect care of the ball, so we definitely need him to clean that up a little bit. Our big man, his name is Nelly Junior Joseph. Actually played for 3 years at Iona with Patino's dad when Rick Pitino was the coach of Iona, and then transferred to New Mexico to come play with baby Pitino. And he's from Nigeria, really a really good guy off the court, physically built. So he's going to have his chances. But Michigan State has some size. Michigan State has some 7-footers. Michigan State has this guy named Carr who has unbelievable athletic ability and could jump out the gym and touch the moon anytime he feels like. I would want to say their guard's last name is Holloway, wears a headband number 0. That dude's a stone cold killer. So we're gonna need a great team effort. Now we are predicated on our defense. Our defense gave Marquette a lot of fits in the Friday game, and we were able to kind of get them stymied and run away from them at the end. What we are going to need though is more scoring than what we're going to get from Dent and Junior Joseph. We're going to need some guys to come off the bench and hit a shot. We have two guys on our team, Boronicevic, who is a transfer from Arizona, and a guy named Mustafa Amsil. They're both 6'8", have some good athletic talent. It just always seems to go missing at the wrong times. So the allegation against them is just like Bomani Jones would say with Cat and Gobert, almost a combined 16 feet of buster. So we need them to show up and play big for us tonight. Um, Again, not a lot of opportunities for us. The NCAA tournament hasn't been kind to the Lobos over the course of our history. Friday was the first win we've gotten in the tournament in almost 13 years. Only the second time we've been back to the tournament in 12 years. So, um, exciting moment for us here in Albuquerque. People are going to be excited. Bars are going to be packed. I'm going to start getting inebriated as soon as the broadcast is over.
Let's do it, baby. Well, that's what's so fun about March Madness and college basketball in general is there is a vastly larger amount of teams that get to compete compared to say college football. There's a huge number of basketball programs that do not have a college football team, such as Gonzaga up here in Washington State. But I'm just looking at this really quickly. Donovan Dent, though, man, 35 minutes per game. Holy shit, dude. That is putting in work for a team that's gone 27-7, beating Marquette. We know Marquette's a real program, and they've been that way for a long time. So kudos to your Lobos, man. And it's always fun to see teams that don't necessarily get the normal shine, like Tyson's saying. Most of us don't watch New Mexico basketball. We got to be real about it. This is what is so fun about the tournament. And for your sake, I'm going to be rooting for your Lobos. And hell, like I told you, I picked them to advance a little bit in this thing and just went with my heart on that one, man. It's as simple as that. But Michigan State, we know how grimy of a team that can be. But the odds makers right now have only 6.5 spread. So obviously, the wise guys think that New Mexico has a somewhat legitimate shot here.
And that's come down because it opened at 7.5.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
Opened at 7.5. I got a kind of a mixed bunch of us here. Some of us have the spread, some of us have the money line. Money line was sitting at 240 last that I checked. For those speaking of all of that good stuff too, this just hasn't been the exciting tournament of the unknowns beating the knowns. Most of the lower seeds that have advanced are still good teams. We didn't get any 13 through 16 upsets this year. For those of you who are following along with me and the model. It just seemed that we got to a point in a lot of these games where once the dominant school got up 10 points, there was no coming back from it. And the only one that really made a good comeback was UC San Diego that night against Michigan and had a shot to win the game at the end of it. Um, I hadn't put this into the equation just because I play the model for what it's worth, just because I think that is fun. Um, but what NIL has done to college sports, especially in this basketball tournament, it was known for its unpredictability amongst the 13 through 15. We don't throw in the 16 only because two of them have ever won, but the two of them that have won have been in the last 10 years. So that unpredictability is why a lot of people tune in for it, and we just didn't get that this year. It's been a lot of chalk. Now, granted, Arkansas did beat St. John's. Arkansas is an SEC school with a unlimited amount of oil money to go out and spend. Half the reason why Calipari went there. But really, other than that, we're not really seeing a lot of the miracle upsets that we normally had in the past. And I don't
Mhm.
know if we're ever going to get back to that because some of the kids that those schools would rely on are getting money to go play somewhere else, even if they're not being a starter. They're they're just on teams that are just overall better. Do I think it's hurt? It hurt this year. We'll see when they start announcing what the ratings were. Um, but if you're a fan of watching the unknowns come in here with a fighting chance and take down some of the powerhouses, it's just going to be really tough to be able to do that moving forward in this NIL world.
Mhm.
I believe the transfer portal allowed for parity to happen, but now that schools can buy the best players, there's not going to be a lot of them available that are going to have to take the route of going to a school like Drake or going to a school like St. Peter's or going to a school like Fairleigh Dickinson or FAU. A lot of them are just going to hold out to see if they could get money offers from some of the big boys. So there's gives and takes on it. I love it in football. I love the NIL in football. Just have to adjust the way that I look at the tournament moving forward now in basketball.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. I like seeing Tommy following your suit on a little bit of underdog action across the board. And I couldn't agree more, man. And especially in hoops, you only need to pay a couple of players to make a big difference for your ball club. Like you said, in football, two players ain't going to make a difference. That's why
Mm,
football is the ultimate team sport. You really need about 40 really, really good players to make a legit run at a college football playoff. But it is kind of crazy. I'm looking at some of these teams and the random upsets might be gone, but this is a time for some of the other schools to shine that have established themselves. The Creightons, the Gonzagas, the St. Mary's, these lesser level programs that have already established themselves and will be able to put together just enough NIL scratch to compete year in year out. I think those schools will still have a chance every single year. But you're so right, man. I don't know if we're ever seeing a George Mason again. And it kind of sucks, but this is the way of the world. And you know what? At the end of the day, the first two rounds, I want absolute chaos. But from the Sweet 16 on, to be realistic, man, I just want to see the best teams.
true. I mean, Robert Morris put up a hell of a fight against Alabama. Hell of a fight with it. There came the point where they needed to have a little more consistent scoring, and while they weren't scoring, Alabama would get the rebound, go down the court, and score. So you had three consecutive trips down the court where they get 6 points, the other team hasn't gotten zero, and it just became too much for them to battle back from it. Shout out to you, Tommy, man. The first day, I will say the model pretty much paid for the second day. So we didn't have to make the double investment to be able to cover the first 32 games. Did well enough that from Thursday to Friday to Saturday, only had to put in $50 to cover everything else after the initial 160 investment. So it was fun. It was fun, but really for that model to be as successful as it is, we need a 13, 14, or 15 to win just because they're going to be the ones that have the plus thousand or more odds to be able to make it profitable. Over the
Mm.
last 2 years, we had a 16 win when Purdue went down to Fairleigh Dickinson. Then when Arizona lost, when Kentucky lost to Oakland. So we had a lot of those smaller schools that were getting the quadruple digit odds that made even a $10 bet turn into 100. And that's what makes the model profitable. We just didn't see a lot of that this year. Um, not going to shy away from it. And unlike most people on these platforms, I'm not going to sit here and just, talk about the wins. I posted the wins that we had on our group page. But you can just follow along and just see that without a 13, 14, or 15 winning, the best we were doing was just breaking even all those days. But it's exciting. It's exciting if you're a degenerate like me and and Indy apparently because he was telling along with some of it too.
Well, if my bank account might be safer just because in the great state of Washington, you have to physically go to a tribal casino to place any bets. So it's not nearly as easy as I could be just placing mad bets on my lunch break. So I might be helped out by my state and the ridiculous restrictions.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. I get it. I get it. I get it. We're kind of the same here in New Mexico, but where there's a will, there's a way, and we'll just leave it at that.
So I got a quick question then, dude, because you stated there was no seeds 13 or worse that made an upset this year, but we always talk about the 12 and the 4 and the 11 and the 6. And I'm just looking at the bottom of the bracket and we had two 12s make an upset, as well as Drake taking out Missouri. So maybe there still is some hope. I can't pretend to know anything about McNeese or Drake, but one thing I know is Colorado State is actually put themselves on the map recently. I believe it was only their second time in program history advancing to the round of 32
Mhm.
right off the bat in consecutive years. So congratulations to Colorado State, and maybe there is going to be some sort of cutoff line though now, because if we look at, if you're a top 3 seed, you're a top 12 team in college basketball. There might just be too vast of a difference right now between the 12th team and the 64th team, especially in the NIL world.
What I thought was crazy that even though Colorado State was a 12 and Memphis was a 5, Colorado State was a betting favorite going into the game.
Oh, really?
And that,
Wow.
yeah, and I mean from Sunday, from selection Sunday to tip off, Colorado State was a betting favorite for that game. So it wasn't really like a true 12 is a team that's on the ascend after finding their way. 5 is a team that could have been a 4-3-2-1 depending on where they finished at in their conference standings type of thing. Um, was real shocked by that. McNeese to me was a story of the first weekend, not because of, well, two reasons, and I'll give this dude some love. Their manager has an NIL deal. That's crazy to me. I don't think anyone on their team does, but their team manager, the guy who just walks them out and passes the ball to them during the free throw line, during the layup line, has an NIL deal, and they even had dude on Sports Center. Um, and the fact that their coach has pretty much accepted a new job. So they talk about playing with distractions and keeping distractions at a minimum. But they had this thing where he was transparent about what he was doing with the offers he was receiving, and they were transparent with him about the offers that they were getting to go places, and just decided, let's just come out here and just lay it on the court. Let's just come out here, just leave it on the court and see what happens. And they were killing Clemson. They were up over 20 points over Clemson and just couldn't take care of the ball at the end, but ended up squeaking out that 2 point victory. Just really weird moving forward how this is going to affect it. Um, for what I love about the NCAA tournament, I'm going to need some of these smaller schools to find a way to get some better talent. Don't know if that's going to happen in the NIL world, but as long as we're still getting good games, like watching Arkansas upset St. John was fantastic. Watching Gonzaga have their comeback to make the game close. Even watching UConn and Florida today, and almost like the passing of the torch game, where UConn has them, but Florida's talent just shines through at the end. It's been fun and exciting. It has been fun and exciting. I still think it's the most exciting 4 days in sports, and just excited to see how it all plays out.
Let's go, baby. Let's go. It is just so fun. It's what everybody gets into. I think back when I was a kid, RG, my mom would come home from work and she'd bring home her bracket and we all help her fill it out cuz that's the kind of thing March Madness brings. It's the togetherness because you don't have to be a fan of sports at all to get into this thing. My wife watches zero college basketball. My mom was probably close to zero and everyone's filling out the brackets. People are placing bets if you can. And it helps when the games are tight, though, man. If the games aren't good, then people will eventually tune out. There's so much other stuff in the world to watch with all the apps and all this other stuff. But good for college hoops. And I got to be real, man. College hoops has not been at the same popularity level as when we were both younger in our lives. But I think it has a chance to make a comeback with NIL because if a guy needs to get some way because he's from uh what
You're good. You're good.
what the heck?
No,
Sorry, we
I
just
got
had
you.
some crazy.
I got you.
But anyways, yeah, I think we're gonna see more quality young players in college basketball because a guy from a family that needs that money immediately can get that money immediately and doesn't need to go overseas like a Brandon Jennings. He doesn't need to be one of these countless players going directly to the G League. And if these guys can provide some financial support to their families from day one in college hoops, while it's over the table and no one has to worry about suspensions, anything worse than that, it's going to be great for the game overall.
I think so. I think so. It'll definitely help out the economics of the guys who have that talent, who kind of felt that there was nothing for them to do except for suffer for 4 more years. What you definitely won't get anymore is the thing that happened to the Fab Five. You won't get any of those situations anymore. Um, and I also think that they should let Michigan put back up those banners,
Oh
especially
yeah.
that now that it's the Wild Wild West and there are just no rules. Chop it up with the homies in the chat real quick. Tommy said, "Yep, day one, pay for day two for me." Hey, that's what it's about, man. Surviving and advancing, just like they're trying to do. Um, I honestly think that Ole Miss is absolutely the play to make for the day. The homer in me would tell you to put it on the Lobos, but Ole Miss is definitely the play of the day, especially if you're going to just take the money line for them to go out and win outright at plus 200. 200 of that, you'll do 200. That's going to turn into some great cash for you. To then turn into a little more, little about 600 or more if you're still going to be able to make that run. Um, they asking us out of the teams left, who do you guys think is winning it all? I'm going with Florida. I'm going with Florida for right now. I think so. I just think that they have the most talent across the board, the most battle tested it is. I think that they may be able to give Duke's youth some problems if they match up with them in the Final Four. But I would need to pull up the bracket to see where they would exactly meet at in San Antonio. But yeah, I'm going with Florida for right now. I'm going with Florida
Okay.
to take it all. I think that they had the best team for the last 3 months. Just Duke and Auburn were getting all the pub for it. Duke deservedly so, but Florida took it to both. Florida took it to all the top teams in the SEC and ended up earning that last number one position. So yeah, I'm gonna go with Florida, Tyson.
Oh, that's interesting. That's interesting, man. It looks like I actually have Florida and Duke for the championship game. And I picked Duke all the way. There is no shame in my game. I went for the obvious pick. And you said it though. Usually you need more experience. I just think Duke has too much talent right now. So far, it's playing out on the court. Even though it's only been 2 games, the competition is going to get fiercely more stiff as we move along here. But when you have the best player in college hoops, plus another 4 or 5 other NBA first rounders, with a coach I think is actually pretty damn good with John Shire, who's also been there, done that in the tournament as a player. It's hard to pick against Duke. Although I like to try to pick someone that's not such a goddamn obvious pick, but you know what? I'm not trying to be a superhero here. I just picked who I thought the 2 best teams were.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Tyson says Florida and Duke are the two most bet on teams left. Yeah, Vegas wins no matter what. You're right. House will always win. The one team that I would tell you to keep your eye on though is Tennessee because Lanier, num- that dude has become Steph Curry the last 3 weeks. Just not a shot on the court he couldn't hit. Record for as many threes as he's hit in the game so far that have been played. Just that dude is a beast, man. Just constantly providing Tennessee with the sparks that they need. So I like Florida. I would say as a backup, I would like Tennessee as well too. But we are getting fun. We are getting good games. We are getting close games. Even Illinois and Kentucky, that is on while we speak, is a 5 point game at halftime. Um, Buckle in, man. We're going to see some exciting basketball over the next 2 weeks.
No doubt, no doubt. I just want to comment too. I can't remember his name at all, but I love Tennessee's point guard. He is exactly what you're looking for in a championship quality college point guard.
Ziegler, I believe is his last name.
Yes, yes. And also on Tennessee, Rick Barnes, the former coach of Texas, this guy's been doing it for a really long time, and it would never shock me of a coach of his ability finally breaks through and gets all the way.
It's time for them. It's definitely time for him. We got Texas to a Final Four with TJ Ford. It would be nice for him to be able to get his career breakthrough and make it through with Tennessee as well too. They've never been to a Final Four. We got some good storylines, some good parity moving forward. SEC has 4 teams that have gone through from the 14 that they got in, so they're proving their worth. Lot of fun to be had. Of all the number one teams that are left, I'm still gonna go with um, Auburn being the most vulnerable number one seed, just because they've shown that in their play sometimes. Um, Still going to have a lot of good opportunities for some dollars to be made if you look at it from that perspective as we move forward the next 2 weeks.
No doubt, no doubt. And I just want to say that Tyson Vegas wins no matter what. There's a reason all the odds makers and wise guys live in gated communities and send their kids to private schools. It ain't a joke.
You ain't never lied.
Well, man,
Mm.
is there is there anything else on the big dance you want to put out there, man? I know you're just pumped for your team. My Huskies have been in hibernation for several years now, we could say. So,
And that's just kind of strange too, because especially being in Seattle for being such a hotbed for a lot of basketball talent, and Seattle is not a cheap city by any means. You would think that their pockets would be a little bit bigger to get their hands in some of that under the table recruiting to get some of those big time players that come out of there. I I just don't see for the life of me how Washington being in Seattle allows Gonzaga to get top 10 talent being in Eastern nowhere, Washington. But
mhm.
maybe it's something about Spokane where the crab hits a little bit different than it does in Seattle, I
Well, they're crabby smelling funky once it gets all the way out there, bro.
guess.
No, but real talk on quickly on Gonzaga versus UW per se, and then Washington State is in Eastern Washington as well. But Gonzaga has been able to recruit globally for probably the better part of 20 years now. Gonzaga really was the first college program to recruit on a global area. And so that's been a huge difference maker for them. Another factor for the UW Huskies is the vast majority of the big money donors are going to donate to football, and that's just what it is. And then when it comes to hoops in general, here is so the Huskies hoops under Lorenzo Romar in the earlier 2000s were on fire for a while there. But a huge part of it was just, and these guys would be kind of in our age group. They'd be like mid 30s to early 40s now at this point, RG. Those dudes just had so much hometown pride. And the world is so connected with the internet and social media nowadays that these young dudes don't always just cheer for their local favorite teams. A lot of them are looking to the more of their favorite players, and their favorite player is Kevin Durant. So they're a Suns fan, they're a Nets fan, they're a Warriors fan. And there was just this group with like the Brandon Roys and Isaiah Thomases, Nate Robinson, and I can name you 20 more dudes that just had so much Northwest pride that they wanted to put Washington on the map, and that's what happened. But there's also coaching too. Washington has struggled to find a legit college basketball coach, and therefore they've struggled in general. But I digress. Husky hoops, I wish they could come back to life, but they really need to do some deep soul searching. And then also, RG, what are you going to do? If you're a top pick in the NBA draft like Paulo Banchero and you want to go to Duke, how do you say no to going to a program like that? It's just hard not to.
Yeah, man, I absolutely get it now. Look, when you put it that way, we were talking a couple weeks ago about one of the last time the Lobos had a chance to get to the Sweet 16, and we ended up matching up with the Huskies. And I told you they had a, we everybody was screaming, we want Washington, and I was sitting there screaming, no, we don't, because Washington had NBA talent, and we only had one guy that really got an NBA look off our team. That Washington team we lost to had Isaiah Thomas, Quincy Pondexter, Justin Holiday, and CJ Wilcox.
Mm,
Yeah,
that's legit. And I
yeah.
remember they had some other really good college level hoops players. That was a squad, man. And major defense, too, man. You get Justin Holiday. That guy sticks everyone in the NBA, let alone college.
Yeah.
Great sneaky pickup. Everyone was mad because that middle brother, I can't even remember, Drew Holiday, he was the biggest star of that family. But Justin was a perfect Husky because at that time period in the earlier 2000s, it was about defense with the Huskies and making a dude's life hell to get the ball across half court. I'm going to take you all the way back to Rainier Beach High School, where my dad went to school at in South Seattle. And we went to a game, and it was the Martin Luther King tournament. And there was a couple suburban schools that had really good point guards that went on to play small college ball, but Nate Robinson was just a nasty pest. That dude, you couldn't get it across half court. Nate Robinson in high school, I dare you to have a point guard that could get it across half court. Just a little 2 cents off the rails, but that shit was awesome and fun to watch.
I'm sure it was, man. That dude was a beast. That dude was a beast. Yeah, man, fun time of year. Fun time of year. College, the NCAA tournament is up and rocking. We're gonna start seeing a little bit better basketball in the NBA now that we're just a couple weeks from the NBA playoffs being able to get started. We've talked a little bit of hockey mixed into it. My Capitals are still holding strong at the top of the East, and baseball starts on Thursday. So good time to be a sports fan. Good time to be a sports fan.
My oh my RG baseball's around the corner. We're gonna have the Sweet 16 and first pitches being thrown at about the same time, bro. Absolutely love it. The floor is yours. Talk to me on the Seattle Mariners, man.
A lot remains to be seen. We're going to start our season off against the Athletics. I don't know what city to attach them to, so I don't know if we're going to call them the East Side Sacramento Athletics, the Las Vegas Athletics, the Russell Athletics. we just gonna we'll just call them the Athletics of the A's like they want to be called. So they're gonna run out Luis Severino first game. We are going with the LOG to the OG Logan Gilbert on the hill for the first game. Um, Bats had started coming alive in spring training. I don't get excited about what they do in Peoria because if they don't do it in Seattle, it doesn't mean a damn thing. So, did make a move today, getting rid of half of the double Mitch Witch, letting go of Mitch Haniger, which I don't. I have mixed emotions about it, just because I remember how good he played in that initial contract season. I want to say the 2021 where he had the 35 home runs and got some votes for MVP, and for us to kind of waver with him. And then, of course, 22, we made the playoffs, but he's hurt. So he's not a big part of that particular push. We let him go, goes to San Francisco, has a mediocre year. We bring him back. Um, I was not a fan of spinning the block on Mitch Haniger and bringing him back. I just thought that especially with what we gave him, that could have been used as a package to get somebody else, and I just felt that they overpaid him to compensate for not paying him when they should have. But
Hmm.
the experiment again just turned out to be failed. So I do a lot of banging on Depoto and Hollander and some of their boneheaded decisions. I'm going to have to add it to the list, but it's not the worst decision that they've made. And, better to cut our losses now than suffer through a season of unproductivity from him and then try to figure it out come the trade deadline. Um, we'll get there, T. Williams. Baseball bet of the week. We'll get there before we go. But excited for the start of the season. I still have faith in our pitching staff. They Now that Edgar has a full time role in kind of overseeing how the hitting coaches are working. I'm a little bit excited to see if we can just go to smacking the ball instead of trying to play for the 3-run home run constantly, which does us no good. Yeah, excited for it. Really, really excited for it. As soon as I come home from work on Thursday, I'm gonna throw some brats on the grill and crack a couple Steve Weissens and get ready for it.
Let's go, baby. Let's go. I was honestly shocked, RG, to hear the news about Mitch Haniger getting cut. And obviously it's because of the money. I've been on my soapbox forever saying the Mariners aren't going to pay a dude 15 to 17 million dollars to get fired, but they actually did it. And I heard it at the driving range this morning. A guy in a Mariners jersey next to me was like, he saw me in my Mariners hat, and he was wearing a Mariners jersey. And the stall next to me was like, "Hey, I just looked at my phone and they cut Mitch Haniger." I'm like, "What?" And so that surprised me. And I just want to go on Mitch really quickly, bro. What frustrates me about that is that trade wasn't about production. It wasn't about improving the team. It was the age old, we got to make room for the budget. And Robbie Ray was coming off major surgery. Robbie Ray is still under contract for 2 to 3 more seasons after 2025. We know the Mitch Witch will be off the books completely for 2026. So what frustrates me is you're just moving around money to save money down the line. It was never about production.
Tough, tough, and especially when you put it like that. So then let's look at where we ended up at when the dust settles. Robbie Ray's gone. Mitch
Hmm.
Haniger's now gone. We still are spinning the block with the team that finished towards the bottom of hitting stats, of combined hitting stats last season, and hoping that last season wasn't like this season with no real firepower added other than Donovan Solano, depending on how you feel about him. For as good as they have built our pitching staff, they haven't done as well with the offense, and sooner or later that's going to have to break. And just hoping that this isn't the breaking season for that. Um,
Hmm.
One or two injuries away in our pitching staff from being very mediocre. And yes, Houston doesn't have Bregman anymore. Houston doesn't have Kyle Tucker anymore. But until you cut the head of the snake off, they're still the big dog and we're still little brother. And I know that in head to head games, we compete a lot better against them than we have in the past. They still make the playoffs every year, and we've only made it one in the last 23. So I still don't see how we can build offensively without letting go of a pitcher or two. To me, it's just going to happen that way. But until then, let's just put our faith behind this pitching staff and hope that they stay healthy. And really that's going to be the catalyst to see if we can get over the hump or not. Is the health of those guys on that side of the ball? But
Mhm.
we almost already know what we're going to get offensively.
I'm gonna hope. I'm gonna hope they can do a little bit better. But the problem is just like you said, Mitch Garver's tearing the cover off the ball. Jorge Polanco is as well. But we've seen dudes like this. They're too good for most of these spring training pitchers. They should be hitting the snot off the ball. And then they come back to Seattle. The game completely changes. And like you said, we're a couple pitching injuries away. Well, Kirby's already going to be on the injured list to start the season. So that does us no favors at all. I am optimistic though about this team, and part of it's just the division is worse. But that what does that really mean? We still got to beat Big Brother. Texas won the championship 2 years ago. Houston 3 years ago. Houston's been whooping our ass for the better part of 10 to 12 years right now. So the proof is in the pudding. We can talk till we're blue in the faces, but the team's got to put it down on the field. Tyson Baxter's Orioles are going to be dangerous once again. But I got a question for you, man. And we don't even know the answer yet, but I think it's a really fun one. And I know where I stand, but we'll get to that in a second. There is a huge debate for fans and within the Mariners organization at second base. Would you ride with Ryan Bliss to start the season at second or Dylan Moore?
Demo started the year off very hot for us last year. And shout out to friend of the show, I believe it was Eric Neal that was on, who said it's a very dangerous thing to have Dylan Moore, the most productive hitter that you have in your lineup. But early in the year, the dude did get off to a hot start. Um, I would almost give Demo the nod over Bliss, but eventually we need to start working in some of that young talent that we have. The way that Houston was able to develop guys and get their young guys in the mix and carry them for a while. So I wouldn't be mad at all for Bliss to get some type of shot. Um, First one to hit 275. Let him stay in the lineup.
We might need to make that 225 for these dudes, but
Yeah, man. And like I said too, even today, Cal has hit 2 home runs today. Blanco's hit a home run today, but it's still spring training, and nothing that you do in Peoria is going to guarantee us success starting on Thursday. So I
mhm.
need that. I need that hitting to be able to make that 3 hour flight from Phoenix up to SeaTac and hang around for a little bit this year. Um, can't go through any of those droughts like we did last year. But put this in perspective: the White Sox lost over 100 games, and we only batted like 10 percentage points better than they did all year. So that's that's an extremely dangerous line to walk. But we a lot of the people felt the service was a problem. We got rid of him. Um, a lot of people felt that